Good afternoon. Wait, well, let me take off my glasses. Clearly, it's still very sunny in Malta, even though we've had our first drops of rain, which means nothing at all, because actually for us that only means more heat. But enough about the weather. Let's move on to talk about things we actually have some form of control over. And what I'd like to talk to you today is, again, content, but this time I would like to angle it in a slightly different way, because I was thinking, obviously, as we had a bit of a break, because last week we didn't have the Schools and Agents Bulletin because Lynn and I had a short summer break, and as we were kind of talking, discussing, we started looking at the fact that in a lot of schools, summer students have now started going back home, and especially those schools who tend to focus on summer camps, or those schools who tend to cater for younger students especially, have obviously started seeing perhaps a slowdown in their classroom numbers, in the numbers of students that actually show up on their doors on Monday morning, which means that in the previous weeks, a lot has been happening at your schools. And that brings me to my point. If a lot has been happening at your schools, it's obvious that students, and hopefully you as well, have been taking lots of photos and videos. So now is the right time to start thinking about what you would like to do with all of this content and how you can involve your students who have visited your school and are still buzzing with, the fun from the experience that they've had at your school, and make the most of that. So obviously, starting off with the photos and the videos that you took, that your camp leaders took, that your activity leaders took, it's important to start sorting those photos and see how you would like to use them in the coming weeks and in the coming months, because obviously this kind of content is very, very valuable, because it's going to keep your social media feeds active for the coming weeks, and quite a good number of weeks if you've been taking photos. One small point over here, small bracket, make sure, and I've already mentioned this in one of the videos some weeks ago, but make sure that one of the first things that you do when students come to your school is that you ask them to sign a photo consent form, because like that you can avoid a lot of hassle afterwards, and you can use the photos that you take at these events during extracurriculars, in your classes, however you take your photos, but like that you can make sure that you'll be able to use them in whatever way you please. So the moment students walk in, together with the enrollment form, with the welcome packs, whatever it is you give them on the first day, make sure you also give them a photo consent form. Back to our topic now. Now that they have hopefully signed the consent form, and that you have a lot of photos that you can use, sort them out. Photos from classes, photos from activities, photos from teens, photos of accommodation. So that is the photos that you took. But there's another side to it. We all know that with their phones nowadays, students are very, very good at generating content. So now is the time to launch a competition, for example, and you can get your students, one thing I'm thinking of right now, you can get your students to, let's say, upload a photo on their social media, tag your school, tag their friends, and caption the photo, speaking of, I don't know, giving it a title of their favorite summer memory, something of the sort. But launching a competition is going to, first of all, keep your students engaged. Second of all, if you get them to tag friends, it's going to start, generating interest for the next summer camps. And third of all, it's going to give you things to reshare on your own feeds. So this is something to take into consideration, but think of ways in which you can involve your students, because your students would have certainly taken photos themselves. And I always find student photos super interesting because they would have seen they would have experienced, that's the word I'm looking for, they would have experienced the activity, the camp, anything, you know, that they've spent time doing at your school in a different way. And they would have experienced it in a way that is interesting from the point of view of people their age. So it's good to get students involved, to get them to share content, and launching a competition at this time of year, you know, now that they've just returned home, perhaps they're missing their friends, they're sharing stories from this summer camp. Now's the time to really get them motivated. I'm going to leave you with that idea today, but if you have any more ideas on perhaps how you can engage, how you can involve students, and you would like to, let's say, bounce them off, feel free to either leave a comment down below this video or send me a private message, as you know, some of you sometimes do, with ideas that you have, and I'll be very happy to give feedback on that. So have a good one, everybody. It's great to be back, and I look forward to our next Schools and Agents Bulletin next week.